Hello, Broadway Workshop folks. It is Kent here, and today is video 4, but it's kind of video 3B. We're going to continue our conversation about lyric writing, but we're also going to tie in some information about writing dialogue between your characters. So remember, lyrics are the innermost thoughts of a character. When the dialogue starts, that's when we start to have the songs coming, right? And songs and scenes always flow together, right? Scenes bring us from song to song, and songs bring us from scene to scene. So everything's kind of in this circular motion, everything's always working together. But a lot of times people get stuck on dialogue. What are your characters going to say to one another? And Crystal Silkman, who is a Broadway book writer, she's written the book for a couple of musicals that have been performed at various off-Broadway festivals in New York. She has some tips that she gives to book writers, and we're going to walk through those today, and hopefully they help you in your dialogue creation between your characters. So the first one kind of goes back to the very first video when we talked about all the different sources where musicals can come from, right? Books, TV, movies, video games, cartoon, comic strips, anything. So whatever your source is, if your source has the dialogue and the characters kind of already developed for you, that's the easy part. Figuring out what your character is going to say is kind of already there. The tricky part for you then will be figuring out what stays spoken as dialogue and what becomes sung. Where in that character's development are there all these feelings or this arc of emotion that you just have to get out in song form? So that's the first thing. Figuring out what your dialogue is going to be based off of your source material, and that includes your characters, your setting, your conflict, all that good stuff. So then the second thing, going kind of tagging on to the last point I made, was where do your characters sing and where do they not sing? Thinking specifically more about the setting of your musical. If your musical is set in a situation where your characters are performers already, so Cabaret, Bandstand, The Band's Visit, Jersey Boys, Beautiful, the Carole King musical, those are musicals centered around musical performers. So singing is going to be a part of that character's journey, right? So then you have to decide, is my song going to be functioning in the performance aspect, or is my song going to be a telling of feeling and emotion and conversation? Or is it going to be both? Which happens a lot of times. Second thing in that point would be you've got to let your lyrics support the moment you're trying to create in that figuring of whether or not they're going to sing or they're not going to sing. If you decide they're going to sing, but then you kind of start writing your lyrics and you're thinking, well, maybe this isn't working for the moment I want to create, then maybe that's not a point where they have to sing. And that is okay. That just becomes another stretch of dialogue. And then later on, you might find that emotional arc where you're saying, oh, that's where they're going to sing. And that's okay. Point number 3, songs and scenes go together, right? Songs lead us to scenes, and scenes lead us to songs, okay? See the songs as vehicles to move your story along versus just, here's a song, here's another song, here's another song, and then we're going to have some dialogue spoken in between that may or may not make sense, right? Everything's got to be cohesive, and that's really what makes good musicals good, is everything fits, everything comes together really well and works together. The next thing is be imaginative and be creative. If your musical even is based in real life, you can still go a little bit beyond real life boundaries of your musical. If your song is a character's innermost thoughts, then you can go 100% anywhere you want to go. You know, for example, the song Take It Like a Man, right, from Legally Blonde. It's based in a real life thing. They go to this department store and they go shopping, but it's kind of this fantastical, everyone's in on the joke, and everyone's helping kind of transform him and have this Cinderella moment. And that very well may be what he's thinking on the inside, but in real life, it's just Elle going to these different people in the store and asking for their advice. And then, time is your friend. a lot of people don't realize that in a musical, time is as strict or as loose as you want it to be. Going back to Legally Blonde, the song Chip on My Shoulder goes over the course of 3 months. For sure, we get Thanksgiving and Christmas in that musical, and then somehow we end up in the new semester. But that the constraints of time are not real in a musical. You can do whatever you want. Another example, Travel Song, right, from Shrek. Somehow they get from the swamp to the tower in the span of a song. Excuse me. In the span of a song, right? So time is your friend. You can choose to go over 2 months or 2 minutes. Totally is up to you. And then just a little tag, a little extra boost of energy there. Winnie Holzman, who wrote the book to Wicked, which I mean is a little musical that you may or may not have heard of. She has three tips for people who are writing the book to a musical. So the first is be inspired by some material, but don't be confined to that material. If you've read Wicked and then you've seen Wicked, you'll notice that there are some considerable differences from the book to the musical. Part of that, of course, being that there are some things in the book that may not translate well to the stage. But also because in a musical, you have a certain amount of time, 2.5 hours, to really wrap the audience in and captivate the audience and tell the story. So what elements are you going to put in there? What elements are you going to allude to? And what elements might you leave out? Second thing, write what fascinates you and follow the path of least resistance. English is hard, friends. You don't have to go sequential in order if you are using source material that already exists. Go to the part that inspires you the most and build around that, okay? Or if you want to go in order, go in order. But don't feel like you have to go in order and dredge your way through everything. And then, picking up on that, explore questions and allow for some things to not be done immediately. You are going to hit some walls. You are going to hit some writer's block, and that's okay. But allow yourself to sit in that mystery for a little bit, and who knows, you might come up with $1 million idea. So I hope this helped. I hope this encourages you in your dialogue writing and your lyric writing, and I cannot wait to see what you guys come up with. All right? See you next week.